why do we need to do the new stuff when the old stuff works? There are two sides to this coin, right? New stuff allows you to continuously evolve and continuously try the next best practices. But at the same time, the new stuff isn't always the next best practice. So what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. This is an example. And another example is skipping, right? So we talk about cardio. You got to get on the Jacob's ladder. You got to get on the stair climber. You got to get on the airdyne. You got to get on the step mill or the rower or the ski erg, blah, 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 right? Which is true. They're all great modes of cardiovascular conditioning. But you know what else is? And I'm going to give you an example. It's skipping, right? This, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to skip backwards now. Boom, 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 right? So that is a great example of a cardiovascular exercise that can be efficiently challenging to adapt your body to a stimulus. So if I skip enough, if I skip high enough, if I bound fast enough, if I move long enough in a skip, I will get power out of that. I will get cardiovascular conditioning out of that. I will get balance and stability out of that, and I will be able to move better because of drills like skipping. Now, people don't do it because you don't do that when you're an adult. You do that when you're a kid, right? But I would beg to argue that just because you do it when you're a kid doesn't mean it's not a wonderful mode of exercise. And that's where we start to kind of fall apart, is because it's old and tired, we stop doing it, even if it's effective. So another example is this guy, right? So TRX, a lot of people are done with doing TRX exercises, or they don't want to do it because they can't really build muscle or whatnot. And I thought that that was obviously proven to be false, but I guess some people don't want to admit that. And with the TRX, for example, I'm gonna do a chest press, and I'll do it, we've done this demo before, but for example, this is cool. The first time you do it is like, oh, I don't really have as much control of my body, because the first time people get in this, they'll do this, right? And their butt will stay behind them. I'll be like that. Right? Their butt will stay behind them. There'll be some sort of fashion of that. Or their arms will be driving up on here, so they don't really have control of this movement, right? And then you get control of the movement, and you're like, whoa, 12, 15 of these is pretty tough, and it doesn't really matter where I'm at in that vector, right? So 12, 15 for a really strong, really able-bodied person who's in control of their body might not be enough here, but that same thing right here might be like, whoa. And so from a standpoint of progression, the TRX is great. It's a great tool that you should always implement in your training programs, because you can always progress it. There's not one instance where I found that a person is just too strong for the TRX, right? I'm sure, the dude who played the Mountain on Game of Thrones is, maybe we'll find some ways that he's too strong. But for most people, for elite athletes, they're not too strong. They aren't too fit to get benefit from the TRX. But for whatever reason, we're like, yeah, I'm over it. Are you over results that the TRX is getting you? Or are you overdoing TRX because you're just over it? If it can still get you results, why aren't you still implementing that? Right? That's what's interesting to me, right? We had an evolution where, we found this 2006, I think it was developed, but like we started implementing it in 2008, 9, somewhere around there. And it was interesting because I'm like, damn, this thing works, right? This thing is great. Like I'm definitely way stronger. I'm more athletic. I spent 30 days and it was just doing TRX stuff, and it was the most ripped that I've ever been, right? And I was like, this obviously works. And then I started playing around with it to build muscle, and it obviously worked. And so, it worked so well that, places started popping up all over the place, doing just TRX stuff, right? Doing just suspension training stuff. And some places had, 30, 40 people in a class. And then fast forward 5 years after the big boom of suspension training, and very few people still do it. And the question in my head is, why don't people still do it when it obviously worked? Right? It obviously worked for results. People put their mind to it and put effort into it. But for whatever reason, it's fallen out of vogue. And I don't know that that's what we should be doing in the industry of fitness. Should we continue researching and studying and finding the best practices and looking for new tools and different ways to think about movement? Yes, we should. But if something can give you the results that you want, I don't understand why you don't continue to keep that in your movement practice, right? Another one for me is like the Viper Carryover, right? So a lot of people are like, I don't want to do that anymore, it's boring. It's hard is why you don't want to do it, and you're not great at it is why you don't want to do it, right? So the practice of that Viper Carryover can be applicable to whoever wants to get whatever goal they want. So if you want to be stronger, guess what? Viper Carryover can help you. If you want to be faster, Viper Carryover can help you. If you want to move better, Viper Carryover can help you. If you want to build muscle, Viper Carryover can help you. And so that's a thing that stays in our practice. But I think what happens is we need newness as a society. And I'm not saying the majority does, because some people have done the same workout since they were in high school, even with evolution. So the evolution of training protocols. So what I'm saying is still look at questioning what you're doing in your training programs, and should you still be implementing some things that you did before that you kind of like, they lost their way for whatever reason. I think that this is one of those things that you should be revisiting. I think that just fundamentally moving is a thing you should be revisiting, especially when you talk about the overall health of your body and when you want to increase your performance, whether you are just, the layman or an elite athlete. What are the best practices for you to do that? I'm not saying everyone's going to play a sport and need to perform on a court or a field. What I'm saying is you're going to perform in the game of life from a physical standpoint. You might as well use your training hours as something that can not only accentuate how you look or lose fat or whatever it is that you're trying to do, but also allow you to perform better outside of the doors of that training studio that you go to. So take that into your mindset when you start your training again, right? If you're currently training right now, take that in your mindset now. What are the things that you used to do that definitely worked, that kept you safe, that got you stronger, that got you fitter? What are those things? And can you integrate them back into your training program without ruining what you think is working now?